You did?
Yeah.
And just died? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Man, I don't like how far away we all have to be with this. What's up, Facebook? Reclaiming Lives Recovery Cafe, BrandonAdaya here. I actually got Stephanie joining on with me today through the whole segment. Today we are super blessed. We are able to have not only a powerhouse in the recovery community, but I can actually call them near dear friends as well. They've seen the good and the bad and ugly. Well, at least Brandon has. BrandonAdaya. Sean ago.
What's up?
Thanks for being here, you guys.
Yeah,
thanks for inviting us.
Awesome to have you in. We're excited.
So, first off and foremost, I just think it'd be a darn crying shame if we didn't get these guys in here to talk about their recovery story and their path together through this whole pandemic. They have quite a mighty story. And first, I'd just like to ask you guys, how you guys doing through the whole COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, luckily, I am essential.
Yeah, you're right.
So I get to go to work every day. I'm blessed to be able to go to work every day, and Adaya is off right now, and we have a young daughter at home, and so that really works out pretty good. So we're getting through.
And what about your boy? Is he at home right now too?
Yeah, I have him. Yeah, I have a 14-year-old daughter, a 16-year-old son, and then just newly 5-year-old daughter at home. And my son spends about half the time with us, and yeah, he's doing homeschool. And this is the off week, but it's good to have him around for sure.
Adaya, have you found yourself becoming a teacher?
You know, one thing about my personality is I feel like I always have to be busy. I always have to have commitments and a schedule and a list, and I thrive off that, and it's kind of been like my comfort zone for so long. So through this whole coronavirus, getting laid off and my daughter not going to school and my service commitments I'm no longer able to go to, has really taught me to be adaptable and to be present more, like to slow down and smell the roses and try to get on my hands and knees and play with my daughter. I don't know, I've really been, it's kind of weird to say it, but I've really been enjoying this.
Right. Yeah.
It's been good for me. So
That's actually...
I have my bad days. I'm not, obviously, where I'm like, Brandon, you're taking Ryland. I'm getting out of the house. I gotta have a break, But I'm grateful that we have each other, that we can help each other out through this whole craziness right now. So yeah.
Have you guys found your phones ringing a little more off the hook than normal lately? Seeing people you guys mentorship?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then some just never call.
I don't know who that is.
But no,
it's called me out, bro. I knew that was gonna happen.
Gosh.
Who's interviewing who?
Right.
Nice. I knew this was gonna happen.
Why did it just get so hot in
Look at
here?
your
It is, his face matches his shirt and hat. But no, it's definitely a challenge. I got a call the other day from a guy that was wondering if I knew anybody that he could pitch a tent in their backyard. And that's the type of calls I get a lot, and that's recovery, and that's kind of ground level starting out, and it's not pretty sometimes. And of course, usually my first thing when somebody says they're looking for a place to crash is go to the mission, start there. That's where I started. And it takes a level of humility to go there, and it's not usually a clean and sober environment, and it's not fun. But the person that's like, okay, I'm gonna go check into the mission, shows a level of humility and willingness that we need a lot of times. And the mission isn't taking anybody, and then it's like, well, you need to get a job, and they're like, oh, okay, cool, where? And it's like, oh yeah, you can't get a job right now. And I did hear of one person that
there are a few places
they got a job,
but it's not that easy.
But really, like, it is a really tough time to get into recovery. There is online meetings, but but man, it's hard to connect with people online as compared to sitting in a room and listening to somebody and seeing their facial expressions and
the connection.
Yeah, the connection, exactly. And
Fellowship connection.
so yeah, it's just a weird time. It's a weird time to be alive, weird time to be in recovery, and so yeah, like there's a lot more on the phone and you know, one-on-one sessions over the phone because we can't do it in person right now.
You know, and I feel like so Adaya and I we have really close clean dates. So we have the same amount of clean time, and I think all the time, like, man, like, how do I strategize preparing for these phone calls, right? And then I think back, well, okay, what would Brandon do, right? And then, you know, is it easy for you, Adaya, to get these phone calls? How have you been handling these phone calls?
So when this whole thing kind of went down, I was like, cool, I'm gonna enjoy the break. But I didn't realize that, I mean, we're at 5 weeks now in quarantine. I don't think I realized at first that it was going to be this long of an ordeal. And so I've done 3 Zoom meetings since all this started, and I did 2 meetings yesterday. So
Wow.
I'm really hoping that I'm going to start doing that more often. But as far as reaching out, I've used my phone more now than I think I have in my
Entire clean time.
Yeah, you know, and I have a couple of sponsees, and so I gave them homework where all 3 of us are reaching out to at least 1 woman in the program every day, and then we reach out to each other at the end of the day, and we say who we reached out to and like what we talked about. And I know that they've shared with me that it's really, really helping them right now. And I know, like, for me personally, like, it's really helping me a lot right now. Just to be able to talk to other women and relate on things and stay connected that way, you know. And it's great having a husband and a partner who, like, last night he cooked dinner and put the daughter to bed while I went over can I say step work? I went over step work and then did a meeting, you know, and so
Take your daughter to work day once a week.
yeah.
That's
So
pretty cool.
you know, we help each other out with that stuff so that we're able to still have our recovery in our our program that we choose to work. So
I guess the next question I really have before we get on to hearing about your guys' awesome stories, the one thing that I miss more than anything is my connection to my faith. How have you guys been able to keep the connection to your faith?
Yeah, that's as she was talking, that's what I was thinking about, because I had a 92 days clean the last time I got out of jail, and in 93 days is when I put roots down at Mountain Church, is where we go to church, and through that 7 or so years, I've done security, I've done greeting, been a deacon. Right now we're upstairs with the 3-year-olds, which is insane.
Just gonna say that.
Beat some Jesus into him.
Nice.
But that is like, we, no matter what, we go to church on Sundays, and we are part of the church body, and it's much like the 12-step program that we attend. We're of service in both areas all the time, no matter what, and not having that, it's just like it starts to take a toll on you. And the fellowship with for me with other Christians and people within the 12-step fellowship that we belong to is paramount, and not having that really does some weird things to you, because any other time that I didn't have that, I was too loaded to go, or I was incarcerated. And I'm not loaded and I'm not incarcerated, so it's a little strange for sure.
So how do you fill the void? Like through the weekdays, you know, like, because I know Sunday you say you go to church, but I know for me personally, when I have, because I am a very big person of faith, and I know that through the week, like, I have to find ways to fill the void with my faith, because Sunday is just not enough for me. So how do you guys fill the void?
So I usually have a little bit of meditation time in the morning before, you know, my kids wake up. And so I have like it's called Jesus is Calling, but it's just a daily reading. And I read that, and I
Like a
read
devotional?
I read my Bible. And right now I have a prayer list.
Nice.
You know, and I have all these people and issues and things that I pray for, and try to connect that way. You know, I know a lot of churches are doing their sermons online, you know, live, I guess, like on Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah, ours is.
And so, you know, we watch the Easter service, but we haven't really watched a whole lot of other services, you know. We get out outdoors a lot right
You guys
now.
are big
Yeah.
outdoorsy.
Like, we're going on hikes at least 3 or 4 times a week. You know, shooting our bows, doing things like that. But I can feel a little bit of a disconnect with my higher power right now, you know, and that's not good, because that can cause me to live in fear and like not have that peace that I so desire to have. But not only for like selfish reasons, but because like my higher power deserves to be praised.
Amen.
You know, so.
Thank you guys for sharing that. I want to put something out there. I saw on Facebook the other day, Brandon teaching your daughter how to shoot a bow.
Yeah.
I got to say right now, like, I probably watched that thing 33 times.
Aww.
Yeah, like that was pretty cool, dude. The way she just nailed that target first try, and she turned around with a big old smile. Like,
yeah.
like I gotta say that was pretty neat. Stephanie, you got anything for him?
She's just so confident. I think what you were saying about just the relationships in general, like our connection to our faith, our higher power, is also through other people, I think. And so we build each other up through those conversations and that connectedness. And it's really hard to achieve that in a video conference. Like, you know, I too miss all the people that we associated with every week, whether it be in cafe. I mean, it's a huge love fest here. And so to not have those people come in and, like, you know, all the words that are exchanged about encouragement and love, like, that's a deep, you know, piece that's missing in a lot of people's lives right now, I think. And, you know, I don't know. So, like, Brandon and I are here every day together, obviously, and then we do one-on-ones with the social distancing, and we have the opportunity to interview people, so we're getting a piece of that, but it's not the same as the people that we have deep relationships with that also have similar, you know, sources and of power and things. So,
well, one of the biggest things that you miss while you're in active addiction is just human connection.
Right.
You know, even when you're around a ton of people, you know. So having that gone now, not being loaded, is kind of it's a shock to the system.
Yeah.
I think when I just telling Stephanie this earlier, I think that when they slowly but surely, you know, release us, that it's gonna be, we're gonna be bombarded with a bunch, you know what I mean? Like, we're probably gonna be a little overwhelmed, being, dang man, we didn't know how good we had it sitting home all day, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit. But I just think that it's gonna be motivating for us to want to change some ways. And I'm just super grateful to have you guys here today and tell you guys a story of recovery. I told you how I thought I wanted it at the beginning, but as you guys were talking, I just think I want to let you guys do what you guys do, and exactly however you guys want to do it. I think you guys just have a wonderful testimony, and I think we just need to let the viewers hear it however you guys want to talk about it.
I'll let you go first.
Of course.
Of course. Oh, the only time the woman doesn't go
I gotta
first.
let him be a leader, right?
Well,
Let him be a leader, man.
Usually we go by clean time, and I've got more.
Yeah, I mean, you ain't lying.
But at the same time, I usually give my wife the opportunity to make the decision.
Amen.
And so
she's made her decision.
Yeah. So you know, I can like bounce it way back to like the first thing that I can remember growing up at 2 or 3 years old as my parents fighting. And probably my second oldest memory is feeling like if I could be anyone else in the world besides Brandon, that it would be better. And the first time that I got to experience being someone else is the first time I put a mind-altering substance in my body. And you know, you hang around some 12-step fellowships and you'll hear things like get out of the problem into the solution, and drugs were a solution for me, and they were for a while, and I didn't have immediate consequences. What they did for me is made me feel like someone else, and each time I put a different substance in my body, I got to be someone else. And so at a really young age, I learned to develop mass that I needed, and my biggest unmet needs were to be loved, appreciated, and needed. And you know, I grew up with a father who's an addict and really, really violent. And you know, through working the 12 steps, I came to a point where I understood that he did the best he could with the tools he had, and he loved me the best way that he could, and like it's all good. And I always kind of felt like if I thought about it or I had to do work around it, then it would define me. And through working the 12 steps, I've came to believe that when we write about it and we talk about it and we share about it, that it releases that and it no longer defines us. And I was sexually abused as a kid. I didn't tell anybody about that till I got clean, and it was a little while. I probably was clean like 6 months, and I was in an intensive group, and
oh, I know that one.
Yeah. And I remember just being okay with telling all these men that I'd been sexually abused, and it was like one of the most powerful things that I've ever seen. And I don't know, there was like 12 of us in there, and 10 out of the other 11 broke down and talked about being sexually abused. And that's when I really realized, like, you know, sharing our pain and sharing our situations and the things that grieve the spirit, you know, help other people. And so I talk about things like that at meeting level that a lot of people, and I don't expect people to talk about it, you know, but I'm super okay with it, because I know that there's people listening right now that have never told anyone, and I want to just let you know, I know how you feel, and you're not alone. And so really for me, you know, we kind of talked about it before. Everybody knows how to get loaded. Everybody knows what it feels like to continue to use when it's the last thing in the world you want to do, you know. And so I won't really get into that, all of that stuff. Everybody knows about it. But really for me, when I got to the point where I was more afraid of living than dying is when I became willing to do whatever it took, you know.
That's right.
And I've had, you know, at 12-step programs, it is really, people want to talk about higher power, and, you know, they say God because that's typically what's in the literature. And I'm going to tell you right now, for me, it's Jesus Christ. It's the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. It's always been the same for me. I remember laying in jail, thinking like, I probably need to go to prison. Like, I think I want to go to prison. When I get out, I'm going to commit a little bit bigger crime, and I'm going to go to prison because I can't do this anymore. Like, jail doesn't work for me. And I remember thinking like, okay, God, and like having this conversation with him, I believe you work all things together for good. I've seen you do it in my life, but I don't see how you could do it in this situation. Because when I started getting loaded this last time, I was married, I had 2 beautiful kids, I coached 3 different youth sports, I had a house, I had the cars and the trucks and the dirt bikes and everything that I try to fill that void in my soul with. and I gave that all away, you know, and I knew I was never going to coach again. I knew, or I felt like I would never regain the trust of the community, and like, how are you going to work this out? And since then, like, I truly believe that God has allowed me to go through these things so I can help others.
That's right.
That's the bottom line. So like, if you're in a place where you're wondering why this is happening to you, why God would allow it, there's a bigger purpose for your life, you know. And so for me, I'm heavily involved in a 12-step program. I think that it's a really, I hate to say it's the only way, you know, because I have seen people get clean, be in recovery, and you know, live beautiful lives without a 12-step program. But I can tell you, for addicts like me, like, I had to have a 12-step program. I had to put pen to paper. I had to talk about the things that I buried deep inside, and I have to give the gift of addiction away, because I feel like what I went through is a gift, and it was preparation for this moment right here, you know. And so I would recommend getting in a 12-step program. I would recommend getting a sponsor, working the steps, being of service to that program, and I would choose a program that is catered towards whatever type of addiction you struggle with, you know. And you know, you gotta figure out the higher power thing too. And like, a lot of people are like, man, I'm looking for my higher power. Well, he isn't lost, you are. And you know, if you are wondering, like, you know, where your higher power is in your life, the fact that you're alive today and listening to this is proof that a higher power is working in your life.
That's correct.
You know, and you know, when it became, like I said, when I got to the point where I was more afraid of dying than living, is when I became willing to do all these things, to get a sponsor, to work the steps, to be of service, to stop getting loaded in between meetings, and to really humble myself. And that's when my life changed. And I can tell you that drugs aren't my problem. My thinking is. And that's what the steps allow me to change, is my thinking. And I used to be able to say, I started working the steps and I no longer found it necessary to go to jail, but I've been to jail clean. You know, one of my identity in the 12-step program was going into the work center, the jail, the treatment centers, JDH, and sharing the gift of recovery with people. And at the time, I was one of the people that took meetings into the Jackson County Jail. And on Tuesday night, I was sharing the juvenile detention center with 23 kids, and everybody's crying, and it was like this beautiful thing. And Wednesday night, I was sitting and holding for 16 hours, you know, and telling people about Jesus. So, and then the following Wednesday, I was supposed to bring a meeting into the jail. And so, you know, I could get like into it and try to justify it, minimize it, rationalize it, but the bottom line is I made a super bad decision because of my thinking, you know. And I the bottom line is I did something that normal people can do without any problem or any repercussions of the law, but my actions in the past dictate that I can't do some of those things. And the bottom line is I didn't think I'd get caught, and that's why I did it. And that is what I was motivated by.
That was good though.
Yeah, that's what I was motivated by in everything I did when I was getting loaded, which is kind of weird because I got caught every time, but I thought I could get away with it every time. And so like, I've had to learn, you know, I got my ass whooped on that, you know, and I got out of jail and I went and laid in bed and for 24 hours and cried and ignored my phone. And then after 24 hours, I got up and I tried to walk through it as gracefully as possible, you know. And it's like I got all of these messages, and so I started listening to messages, and most of them are people with extended amounts of clean time. They were like, guess what I did when I had 5 years clean? You know, I had 10 years clean when I did this. You know what I mean? And so immediately people in the program and people that love me reminded me that I'm not alone and I'm not the only one that does stupid things, you know. But it really brought home the fact that drugs aren't my problem, you know. And,
Brandon's your problem.
Exactly. And so, you know, it's gone like that for me throughout my recovery. I have 91 months clean today. And,
Holy crap.
you know, having a day clean at one time, I mean, a day clean is a miracle. And I got a lot of days, man.
You do, bro.
Yeah.
You got some days in
Yeah,
your belt.
and there's some people, I mean, I remember sitting next to Gene with 53 years clean, you know.
Yeah,
and,
don't count his days.
you know, and telling me that, you know, I'm like, man, wow, how did you get 53 years clean? And he's like, one day at a time. I should have knew he was going to say something.
Something just so simple, huh?
Yeah, and that's what it was.
And you're looking for the centrifugal of it, and he's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
every day, one day. You're like, ah.
Yeah. And what I can tell you too, I'll kind of wrap it up with this, is I've been through things while I've been clean that I should have got loaded over, for sure. And I mean, I should have got loaded because
That's what we do.
because I woke up that morning, you know. And I will tell you, like, when I get loaded, I do. So there's some things that always happen when I get loaded, and what happens is I commit crimes. I go to jail, I hurt the ones I love the most, and I always find myself doing something I said I'd never do. And
Right.
And that's just what happens for me. And I get super weird. I do really weird stuff.
I know.
And I get sick right now. Like, it doesn't take me, you know, not sleeping for a week or two to get sick. I get sick right now. And man, I hurt my kids, dude. And there was almost 2 years where I never talked to my kids. I never put them to bed. You know, and like, they were hurting. And like, the one thing I wanted to do, I remember being in jail and being asleep and dreaming about my kids. And I remember waking up and just like praying I could go to sleep for 5 more minutes so I could see my kids again. And you know, people told me like I didn't deserve to see my kids again, and that's bullshit. You know, and if anybody tells you that, they don't know. You know, and everybody deserves to see their kids. Everybody deserves to have a chance of recovery, and not only do you deserve it, your kids deserve it. And you know, I remember when I got into the 12-step fellowship that I belonged to, and I heard somebody say that you don't have to get loaded even when you want to. And I don't remember who was sitting next to me, but I remember leaning over and going, what the hell does that mean? You know, I could not wrap my head around that, because the last 1,000 times I got loaded, it was the last thing I wanted to do. Like, I just wanted to get a job and see my kids, you know, and be a normal person. And I'm just not a normal person. I'm a drug addict. I always will be. And like I said earlier, you know, I find that a gift if we can find recovery. And if I had 3 years clean, and if somebody would have told me when I first got clean that my dad, that guy that told me that I'd never amount to anything, that I was a piece of shit, that he just wishes I was more like my sister, you know, the guy that whooped my ass, if somebody would have told me at any point that he would become my best friend, I would have laughed at him, you know. But through my higher power and through working the 12 steps, he did become my best friend. And I really, really, truly believe that he did the best he could with the tools he had, and he loved me. And, you know, it sounds strange, but, you know, he whooped my ass because he loved me. He just wanted to see me not make the same mistakes that he did. And my childhood compared to his was pretty darn good, you know, and I was able to accept that and forgive him, and also find out that I didn't have a part in that. And when my kids were over, it was like 6 days before Christmas in 2015, and I get this phone call from my mom, and she says, the neurosurgeon is on his way to the hospital. Your dad's been in an accident, and he's in really bad shape. And so, you know, the first thing I did is I called my sponsor, and I said, I'm headed to the hospital. And he's like, do you need me there? And I said, I don't think so. I think I'm good, you know, but I wanted to let you know. And I called one other person, and they were, I think they almost beat me to the hospital. You know what I mean? Like, they just got in the car and they came. And I remember walking into the hospital, and the surgeon walks up to me and he says, your dad's hit his head really, really hard. And with the amount of alcohol he has in his system, he's in really, really bad shape and he might die. So what do you want us to do? And I told him, I want you to do whatever it takes to save him. And so they said, okay, we're going to go into surgery, and there's a really good chance he's not going to make it through that. And there was like 25 people in there, and there was machines, and he was intubated, and it was loud, and people were running around, and then it just got super quiet, and everybody left. And he told me, if there's any time through this situation that he can hear you, it's right now. And so I got an opportunity to tell him I love him, to remind him, you know, I made those amends, but to remind him that, you know, that I love him and that I'm sorry for everything I put him through, and also let him know, like, I got it handled, you know. And so he made it through the surgery, and I remember the nurses coming in, and he was on fentanyl and a lot of really heavy drugs.
Right.
And I remember him coming in, and the nurses would pull out like the little Walmart laser scanner, you know, and they would scan their badge, and then they would go over to the cabinet, and they would scan the cabinet, and then they would get a key out of the cabinet, and they would scan that, and they would scan the drawer, and they'd get the drugs out, and then they would scan the drugs, and then they'd scan my dad, and they would scan the machine. And I was like, damn, dude, somebody told him I was an addict. You know, they are teaching. Look at that shit. And
somebody let these guys
yeah,
know.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you know, that's cool. You know, a little accountability there. And I used to always come in, like I would get up and I would go to work. And well, I would get up and I would get in the shower, because I had 3 roommates in recovery, and we had a house, and because I could cry in the shower without anybody waking anybody up. And so I would go to work for a little while and like pretend I was into it, and then I would go to the hospital, and I would always show up at shift change because it got quiet and everybody left. And so I sit down this one day, and I don't know if it was like day 4 or 5, but I sat down and talked to my dad for a minute, and I look over, and there's a whole IV bag of fentanyl just sitting there, you know. And it was like in that moment that I realized what they meant by you don't have to get loaded even when you want to, you know, because I've never really been on the fence whether or not I want to get loaded since I got clean this time. And but like, if there was ever a moment that I just wanted to take a break for a few minutes and not feel anything and have to deal with the emotions and everything that I had to deal with at that time, it was then, you know. And I knew that I could take that bag of fentanyl, because for whatever reason, I don't know how it happened, but it was a freebie, you know, because they keep such good track of that stuff. It had to have been some sort of a mistake, you know. And the only thing that crossed my mind is, I am so glad that I have a choice today. I'm so glad that I don't have to take that, because a couple years before then, I wouldn't have had a choice, and I would have had to have taken it, and I wouldn't have came back to the hospital, and my dad would have died alone, you know. Because on Christmas Day 2015, I unplugged him, and he just wasn't getting better. And the longest 3 minutes of my life were between his last breath and his last heartbeat. And I remember I just couldn't leave. Like, he was gone, you know, and but I just couldn't leave, because I knew that that was the last time that I was ever going to see him, you know. And so there was these marathon meetings right? And I always go to them because when I first got clean, I couldn't go anywhere for Christmas. Nobody wanted me around, and I couldn't see my kids, and so I would go down to these marathon meetings and just hang out, And so I knew there was a marathon meeting going on, and so I got on Facebook, and I put on my Facebook, I'm gonna be at the Zion at 7 p.m. if anybody wants to meet down there. And of course, I posted right when he passed away that he's passed, and so it gave me a time frame, I had to leave.
Continue.
And the most amazing thing, I've been to, at least seven Christmases at the marathon meetings, and usually at 7 o'clock on Christmas, there's not a lot of people down there, right? Because most people that get a little bit of clean time, they got somewhere to be, and I pulled in, and there was 100 people there, and they all came down just to be there with me, and they left their families, and they left what they were doing, and they changed their plans just to be there with me, and so now when somebody's parent passes away in the fellowship that I'm involved with, they call me, and the bottom line is I got through that clean, and I've gotten through every single thing I've had to face in recovery clean, and and it all boils down to the connection that I have with Jesus Christ, and the connection I have with people who love me that are in recovery. And probably, I'll leave it at this, one of the most profound moments in my recovery is when I walked into a room full of addicts and realized everybody knew how I felt, and being my oldest memory that I was the only one that felt that way, and nobody could possibly know how I feel, and especially the people that said they loved me, if they knew what was really going on with me, that they wouldn't, and I know that's a lie, man. It's just a lie, and it's the disease trying to keep me isolated, I gotta say that just take suggestions. That's the biggest thing in this whole deal, because the people in this room are clean, and they love you, and there's a lot of people in the 100%. Valley.
Yeah, it's still going. It's still going. I mean, I think you just long-winded there, brother. No. I think it's got long-winded, brother.
Not bad, dude. That was 12 minutes.
I was going to tell you, give me a time limit.
12 minutes.
12, 13 minutes. That's not bad. I can go for 45.
Oh, I've seen you go for an hour.
Yeah.
But, I just want to say that they say that you've grown so much in that, and the one thing I caught, I caught a bunch, but one thing I want to say is when you saw that bag of fentanyl, and you didn't take it, I just want to say that right then and there, I realized that you might not be powerless anymore. You really gained it. It takes a lot of work to get that. And like you said, where that comes from is it takes paper to pen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember us talking a lot, and you say the work comes when you hit the paper to the pen. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. And I'll get into when I met Adaya, but I'll let her say her piece.
Is there time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
It's their time.
I know.
We got another butt time.
It depends on.
I have a time issue. I have issues.
No, this is your guys. This is. So what we do here is we make sure your guys' story gets heard. So this is what we got to do. This is what we got to do, and we're more than happy to do it.
All right. I started getting loaded when I was 12 years old, and I just always felt like the only way to have fun or to fit in was to alter my brain in some way. And I was raised with very, very good, loving parents who didn't use drugs, who maybe had a bottle of wine in the house and it was locked up in the safe because they couldn't leave wine around the house because we would drink it. And I was raised in a Christian home, and I was born an addict. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Like, I was an addict long before the drugs came into the scene. And when it really started becoming a problem in my life was when my brother went to prison. I was 16 years old and he was 17 years old, and he was my best friend, and he got sent to prison. He got trialed as an adult and was in solitary confinement for 1 year until he turned 18, and then they shipped him off to the penitentiary, where he served 8 more years. And it was like a death to the family. And me being 16 years old, I had no idea how to cope with those feelings at all. I thought it was the end of the world. I wanted to kill myself. I blamed my parents. I completely rebelled. And just the biggest victim on Earth, on planet Earth. Nothing was worse than what I was going through, you know? And so I numbed my feelings, and I was still functioning though. Like, I bought my own car, I had a job, and was able to function for quite some time. I think it was around 21 when it was no longer like party drugs, if you will. It turned into like hard drugs. And I started stealing to feed my habit, and I started getting fired, and I was no longer wanted around by my family. And I was with a man who was into that kind of stuff, and he had kind of introduced me, and he was also 10 years older, and I think I met him when I was 18, and we just like trauma bond together. And if I couldn't save my brother, I was gonna save this wonderful broken man, you know? And dude, my life just, I was completely lost, completely broken, completely addicted to drugs. From the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep, if I even went to sleep, I wanted to get high. Didn't matter how, it was gonna happen. Didn't care who I hurt in the process, not even myself. And that was my life for 4 years straight. And I had completely given everything away. I was so isolated and alone, and I didn't know how to get out. I didn't know how to live another way. And I noticed that my body was changing, and it was like 2 a.m. in the morning, and we were gonna go buy some dice and some stuff and go back to Motel 6, and we were gonna get loaded, and I'm like, I'll just buy a pregnancy test while I'm here. And I bought a pregnancy test, and like, lo and behold, I'm pregnant, you know? And I'm pretty open about my story, so I'll share it on here. I used my entire pregnancy, and I've done a lot of work around that to where I don't have to feel shame and guilt anymore because of that. But when my life really started taking a turn is when I gave birth to my daughter, and they placed her on my chest, and she had all 10 toes, all 10 fingers. She was healthy. She was 7 pounds, 11 ounces.
Oh, wow.
You know? Like, let's just keep it real. I didn't deserve that, but God gave it to me anyways, and showed me mercy and showed me grace. And it's not all on video. My friend recorded it, but I remember when they placed Rylan on my chest that I screamed out, "Thank you, Jesus!" Like, I just started crying, you know. And it was like, I knew that, like, dude, this is not the life I'm supposed to live. Like, God is giving me a second chance here that I don't deserve, but He's giving it to me anyways. And so, you know, I've relapsed. I've fallen, you know, but I've gotten back up, and I'm sitting here today with a little over 3 years clean. Mm-hmm. You know, for me personally, I too work a 12-step program. I take pen to paper. I have a sponsor. I sponsor other women in the program. I give back to the fellowship, to my church, to the community. You know, I really try to help the newcomer, to share my experience and my strength and my hope, and like try to help other women. Like, dude, I remember for so long I thought I'm the only woman who would ever use drugs while being pregnant. The only one. No one would ever do that. And I was introduced to a bunch of women who have the same story that I do, you know, and there's something powerful about that, in knowing that I'm not alone in that, that, you know, people struggle with the same stuff that I struggle with, and we get to support each other and help each other, and you know, and do this lifelong journey together, because this is for life, and I would not have my life any other way. I love my life today, and I love the people in it, and I love the fellowship that I get. Like, I feel so blessed in so many ways, you know. And when I got clean the second time, I committed to some things, man. Like, I will not get into a relationship until I work my 12 steps. I will not do it, because relationships were never good for me. I've never had a healthy relationship, and they was the reason that I relapsed and I went back out. I got sole legal custody of my daughter. Her dad is not allowed to see her until he can get a clean hair follicle. Like, I have healthy boundaries with that, and that's something that I wavered on a lot. You know, like I would block him, and then I would unblock him, and then I would like reach out to him and, you know, maybe see about hanging out, and then I would be like, well, my daughter needs him in her life, you know. And I don't do that anymore. I don't waver back and forth. I don't hang out with people who are making unhealthy choices and continuing to get loaded, unless I'm taking them to a meeting or whatever and helping them, you know, in that way. So I immediately got a sponsor. I think I had like 7 days clean, and I started doing the darn thing while I was still in treatment. And I got out of treatment, and I made the next right choice. I got into like a group living facility, you know, and when that my time was up there, I went into the next group living facility, and just kept making the next right choice, man. And I think I had about 15 months clean. I had worked my steps, and Brandon got to watch me become the woman that I am today, and that was attractive. You know, and we seen each other every Sunday at church, you know, and I got to listen to him share, and like, man, like this man is like, he's getting it, he's doing it, you know. And I think we had like messaged a couple of times, and then boom, we're dating. And like, I'm telling you what, guys, it wasn't but 3 days of dating, and we said, I love you. Like, we just knew, you know. And none of this stuff is promised when you stop using drugs, right? But like, this is my story, and this is what happened for me, you know. And gosh, man, I'm just so blessed. I'm just so blessed, you know. And today I continue to work the steps. I'm working my second set of steps. You know, I continue to reach out. I continue to do all the suggestions that were suggested to me when I first got here, and that's one of the main reasons that that I'm still clean. You know, and when I struggle, I reach out. When I'm in pain, I share it. You know, and together, Brandon and I have been able to create, with God as our center, a really amazing life that I never thought that I would have. I can remember being loaded and like seeing couples like jogging together down the road, you know, like doing couple shit. And I was like, I want that. Like, am I ever going to have that? You know?
I get it.
Like a man that works out, and I'm going to work out, and like, you know?
Still
and
haven't found
we
that,
work
have
out, if you guys don't know.
Still haven't found that, have you?
we work out. So, but, you know, I don't really want to ramble, but man, life's great. Lots to be grateful for. If you're struggling through these times, use your tools that you've been given, reach out. You don't have to get loaded no matter what happens. Like, you don't have to get loaded, you know? So yeah, thank you guys so much.
I think your guys' story is just so powerful. So we have a couple minutes. I figure we just let this run an hour. We got about 10 minutes. So I just want to ask you, like, besides like the obvious, like getting to co-parent together, right? In a clean, healthy relationship centered around God, which I adore with all my heart because, like, I don't have kids yet, but my wife and I sure would like to have some. So that's like a big thing of mine. What is your guys' favorite thing to do together?
Fight.
Shut up.
It freaking better be, because I thought I was the only one, bro. No,
Well,
I'm
I
just
was gonna say real quick because I really didn't get into our recovery and relationship,
Right.
but we got a badass Facebook. You know what I mean? Like it looks
You
good, and we just don't put the bullshit on there.
Right.
You know, and you know, our pastor always says it like get married and put two people under the same roof, you double the sin in the house.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so that's with normal people. Now do that with drug addicts. So, so you double the character defects, and if you're really blessed like her and I, your defects are on the opposite ends of the spectrum that immediately push the other's button.
Right.
So like, you know, I could say this because it's just the truth. Adaya's defense mechanism and she shuts down.
That's me, dude.
Right.
I do
So
that.
your wife probably is like me and wants to fix it
That's
now.
right. She does too.
So that's like, dude, it can't be. It can't be in the middle. It can't be sometimes. Like it has to be opposite ends of the spectrum.
And she wants to fix it right now.
Oh my gosh, dude, and it's
I'm like,
horrible. And like we've went and we had to seek outside help.
Right.
You know, we've sat down with our pastor and his wife, you know, so she doesn't feel ganged up on, because let's face it, I'm right usually. And
piece of work. I just love him, dude.
but for real though, like, you know, I know there's a lot of couples that are in recovery together, and a big thing we don't do is get in each other's recovery.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
You know, one of us might mention every once in a while, hey, when's the last time you called your sponsor? And that's about as far as it goes, and we rarely say that. Yeah. You know, it's not my deal, and the way that it works for me and was taught to me, and I believe with all my heart, men stick with men, women stick with women, and that's even when you're married. Mm-hmm. Like I don't get to tell her, you know, what she should be doing, or you know, reading her step work or any of that stuff.
If I can add to that, like, my wife didn't start her recovery with me. We started a relationship together, not recovery. You know, and that's where I told my wife, I said, first we put God first, then our recovery, then our relationship. Because that's the only way our relationship's ever going to be able to blossom into something beautiful. Yeah. God, recovery, us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just like the meaning of joy, Jesus, others, yourself, right? Like.
Yeah.
And I will say too that I do have a few more years clean, and so I remember when she came in with 1 day clean.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I did not talk to her.
Right.
You know, and I didn't. There was absolutely, like, my biggest fear with any woman in the program would be that they think I'm hitting on them.
Right.
Because they're so, like, that's what happens on the street, and it really, really grinds my gears when a woman comes to the program and she's getting treated the same way she was on the streets by dudes in the program. They have clean time. Like I've had to work through that, you know, like, and talk to my sponsor, and so my biggest fear would be that she thinks that I'm interested, you know, and I really wasn't, you know.
So she put in the work.
Obviously, she's beautiful,
right?
But really, and I watch everybody in the program,
absolutely,
you know, and I watch the people that get a sponsor.
Brandon,
start working steps, and now she's the secretary of the Monday night meeting, and guess what? I'm seeing her every week at church, and I'm like, okay, cool. She can, like, she's in my wheelhouse.
God doesn't make mistakes,
you know. And then one day I walked in to the Monday night meeting with Dustin, and we were talking about something, I don't know, and she was the secretary, and she had about 15 months clean, and I glanced up. And have you seen Madagascar when the lion and everything turns into a steak? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was like that, dude. I looked up and I was like, it was like I saw her for the first time. And Dustin, like, he's talking to me, and I'm like, yeah, bro, yeah. And then I'm like, and he's
the
like,
heck?
He's all, no. And I'm like, oh yeah. And it just so happened that one of us, our little group out there in Eagle Point, really was infatuated with Adaya. And he's like, dude likes her. And I'm like, okay, cool. Then it's good.
That's enough, yeah. No
and
say.
then, you know how God works.
Yes, I do.
You know?
I actually know.
And it was like, you know, we went to lunch, and I knew that I was going to marry this girl. Like the first 5 minutes that we went to lunch, you know, and then it was like 3 days later we became a couple, and then 5 months later we were married.
Yeah.
You know.
Real quick. Beautiful wedding pictures, by the way. If you guys haven't seen them, OMG.
Oh,
So, for real though, it's like, so people in recovery out there, I just want to put out there, like, love stories don't just magically happen. They take work. These two have put in a lot of work, and they got a lot of work left to go.
yeah.
I can totally concur with my wife and I. Stephanie and Tony, 30 years later, are probably still working at it, you know? Tony, if you're watching, we love you. Always give you a shout out. But do you guys have, before we wrap it up, because this was freaking amazing.
Okay. I'd like to say.
Oh.
Yes. I'm sitting here.
Oh my
Well,
God.
you haven't said anything.
I know. I'm saying it now.
I'm ready.
So I knew both of you separate,
Yeah.
which is really cool for
Yeah.
me, and not super well. But I mean, Brandon, Curtis, and Dustin met with me many times when I was in the early stages of all this, and just the fact that they would even give me the time and courtesy, like, thank you so much. I always get so emotional, but. Like, you know, this was before even Cafe, just when I was helping people who were really struggling, who were young, and just bouncing things off of them. And they were always so gracious to me and just, you know, gave me so much of their
Because you
perspective.
were this crazy lady that
I'm right.
wanted to love everybody.
Aw.
And then never, like, no, and she wasn't an addict. It's like,
Like,
why?
you know what you're doing, super dangerous.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah.
Are you positive?
Yeah, they're like, do you want us to come with you? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, you know, I've reined some of that in. I've gotten a little smarter, and you know, I'm Tony. But yeah, so just everything you contributed to the early stages of Reclaiming Lives, like, thank you so much. And like, I saw your heart and how much you wanted to find someone. Like, we had those conversations a little bit about how you had lost your wife, and I know you were engaged to someone else for a while. Was it you? Yeah. So it's like, you know, to see your whole journey. And then I knew Adaya because she was at Oxford with another girl that I was helping. And so I would go to the house and I would see you and so many others, Danielle and Nicole, like, you guys, just my heart. Like, I loved the girls in the house. And I remember you with your daughter and how sweet it was, but you weren't this person. Like, you just have grown so much, and you're just such a beautiful mother and wife. And you know, it's just awesome for me to be that person who, you know, doesn't have a ton of interactions with everyone, but I have enough of the pieces that when I saw on Facebook that you guys had gotten together, I was like, what? Like, never even knew, you know, that would happen, of course. But I don't know, like, it's just such a beautiful love story, really, you guys. Like, our hearts are all about people finding love and having a life. And like, I'm not a person who experiences addiction, so you know my perspective's a little different, just in that I don't have all the head knowledge around the 12 steps. I totally believe in the work, absolutely, and I know you've done that. But you know what it means to just live your lives, and it's not a picnic, right? Like, every day is hard, like, regardless of whether you struggle with addiction. But to see you put those priorities in order and have a family and be that example, it's so amazing to watch to a lot of people. So thank you.
Well, yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's amazing that it's the first time you've been down here, you know?
Yeah, we've been trying to kind of make those connections, and I just figure God's timing is right. And you know, like, we don't know where this will grow, and every day's new experience. You know, we've had 330 people since June, and you know, the love that is felt in Cafe when we are all together is such an amazing thing. I would hope that you guys would come and check it out.
Yeah.
I know that you're doing so much for our community, you know, regardless of whether it's with Recovery Cafe, but just keep it up. Like, people watch, you know, like, I love the part you said about your Facebook. Like, I know there's a lot of criticism about putting all the, you know, glamour to it and none of the bad stuff, but I don't know, like,
I don't do that either.
Yeah, just let's be happy for each other. Let's celebrate the successes.
Yeah.
And I know you guys put stuff out there like, please pray for us, you know, we're going through it. So that's
Those are
not
important
Yeah.
it's not just that, but the support of your church family, the huge support when you talked about going to the meeting and having those people there for you on a holiday and what that meant to you, like that is the heart of Cafe.
Yeah.
Like we want you to know that whatever struggle you're going through, that we're going to be there for you. And we just want to be a part of your lives. And what you guys bring to us, you know, it goes both ways. It's so awesome. Yeah. So thanks for being here.
We love you.
Thank both of you guys.
Yeah, this year I'm gonna go ahead and say it out loud. I'm gonna catch bigger fish than Brandon this year.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and say that.
Only because they took my license away.
Oh man, never mind. That's not fair then.
I'll take you though. I can take you.
My husband, I always show him, look what Brandon comes out. He's so jealous. You're
That's
such
why I
an
got that
outdoorsman.
picture.
It's amazing. Yeah.
You got anything else, Steffi?
No,
You
I
guys
just
got anything else?
appreciate you,
Encouraging
Carrie.
words or anything? All right, you guys, we love you to death. We're glad you guys
Thanks
tuned
for
in.
hanging with us.
BrandonAdaya. All right, you guys, God bless.
Awesome.
Love you guys.
See you next week.